welcome to episode 2 of Coffee Shop Activists. This week, Jasmine has collected a lot of stuff for us to talk about. I've been a bit
The
busy,
facts.
so yeah.
So Roshan
Yeah.
is saying I have no life. Thanks. All right. Good start. Yes, I'm Jasmine. This is Roshan, of course. And first of all, I want to say thank you to all of those who watched the last episode. Obviously, some of it was fun, some of it was a bit more serious. But I guess that's how we are in general. So we're carrying that energy all the way through. And I think I'm going to jump straight into it because, Roshan, you are coming with a story. It's been a crazy week.
Oh,
You've already
yeah.
met a very interesting person. And I thought you might explain who that person is.
So earlier on this year, the ambassador from South Africa to the United States, like, uh, got granted, I think it's called persona non grata status by Marco
Yeah.
Rubio, which means basically like they're not talking anymore. And yeah, turns out he came to our university. One of my friends knew him. So she asked if I was interested to meet him. So I got to meet him, chat to him about like the status of America at the moment, what the ambassadors were talking about when they were there, what it was like to be there during the changeover. And yeah, it was pretty
Yes.
interesting. It seems like a lot of politicians are a bit scared of the effects Donald Trump's tariffs are going to have on the country. So, you know, I think Donald can try and put up the facade that, America is strong and that they'll be able to get through everything. But the people are hurting. Bernie Sanders posted something the other day that said energy was up, groceries are up, and some
Yeah.
other facets, housing prices still haven't come down a lot. And interest rates are looking very similar to that of the 2008 financial crash. So it's going to be a tough time for
Yeah.
America. We'll just have to see what happens.
Interesting that it doesn't get talked about it the same way because, of course, the 2008 financial crisis was, quite the event. Yeah, that's right. But okay, one step back for a second. Why was this person deemed persona non grata? Because that's a pretty big deal.
Oh,
You have to do
yeah, yeah.
something quite significant in most places. Essentially, it means that you are no longer performing diplomatic services in the country that you are at. So, I mean, usually this happens through either a crime or, some really big conflict that has not been resolved. So what happened in this case? Also, do we know his name?
Yes, we do. Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he made comments about Donald Trump's cabinet being a little bit racist. And, Donald and his cabinet do not take lightly to criticism. So very
Yeah.
quickly after that, he was urged to leave the United States.
I mean, this is something new, of course, generally for diplomats. Like, there is a way that you would talk or be careful or whatever. But, we don't afford the same kinds of diplomacy or level of diplomacy for nations that we deem fascist, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
been a number of comments made, for instance, even by Bush when he would visit Russia, about Ukraine joining NATO, and that was very, taboo at the time. We've had these kinds of incidents before, but not the same kinds of consequences in the same way,
Yeah.
for sure. Also, I just wanted to add that, you were speaking about what's going on about Trump as well. And I think that fascism is really a virus that eventually kills itself. So let's see. But it brings us into the first real topic that we want to discuss, which is about censorship in the US
Yes.
that are happening now. So I will link it in the description. But the first thing is that essentially the White House released a new directive, right? About what? Speaking about what is considered extremist violence, which would usually be referred to as a kind of terrorism.
Yeah.
We're seeing now that Antifa is being deemed a terrorist group. Are you a member of the terrorist group?
uh,
The centralized group of Antifa?
Me
What would you say?
myself, I don't really know if I'm a member, but it's ironic that America is getting called, like their regime is tending towards fascism, if not already fascist. And
Yeah.
Donald has now designated an anti-fascist group as a terrorist organization, so that does not bode well for them.
Well, what is Antifa as a group? I mean, I just moved to Austria. By the way, forgot to mention that. I am now here officially, and one of the first things I saw on the train on my way is graffiti saying Antifa. I was in Greece, and there's graffiti everywhere saying Antifa. And you know what? I would say, you know, personally, I'm against fascism, which would make me anti-fascist,
Antifa.
right? And
Yeah.
if it's this kind of group, I'm not receiving the benefits. Let me tell you. As someone who's against fascism, I don't see money in my account. I don't see any kind of membership bonus. Nothing's going towards my pension, so I don't understand, what the membership really means. Haven't figured that out. That's why I asked you because I was hoping you would know. Since I personally, I'm not sure. But I was hoping we could go over the list a little bit about this full directive. So it lists things like anti American, anti capitalist, anti Christian as extremist violence.
Yeah.
Um, so, for instance, yeah, so these are just some of the things. Which, what does that even mean? What is anti Americanism? What is anti capitalism, anti Christianity? That is so vague. Also, what if one sect of one Christianity criticizes another? Does that count at all, or no? I'm just
I
curious.
I mean
But I
a
think the
very
point is that
famous
there's no
case.
limits, right?
Yeah, I think they keep it vague so that they can argue whatever they
Yeah,
want to argue when it comes down to a court of
pretty
law,
much.
so that they can pretty much just use it to get
Yeah.
you at this stage out of the country, hopefully not to any more camps. They just send you back to wherever you came from, or Swaziland apparently. So
Okay, what a combination. Also, that's crazy to say, by the way, just to say, hopefully not to any more camps,
yeah,
since, they're
it's
probably full already anyway.
it's a scary thing to
But
be
okay.
saying in the 21st century after we've seen, the
Yeah.
Anglo-Boer War and also, you know, Nazi
What
Germany
do you mean?
and World War II. So
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah, during the Boer War, there were also like camps that they sent Boers to, and it was like quite a dangerous thing. I'm not too well versed in the knowledge of that. I just know that did happen. So
Yeah,
like Nazi Germany wasn't the first time it was used, but it was definitely one of the most prominent times it was used.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, this is, it's funny. Someone said this, I don't remember who, but that America's finally having its European fascist experience that any European could tell you about. Ask any of them about the country, the time of fascism, and they all have a
Yeah.
story. Obviously, because America is a new country, so in comparison, right? But the difference is that you know they were not major superpowers in the same way that America is right now. They didn't have the same kind of globalized influence
Influence. Yeah.
that affects everybody because they set the precedent, similar in a way that Germany does, also in Europe too. But yeah, the definitions of what this extremist violence is very, very vague, meaning that you can pretty much throw anyone into the category because you can be Christian and anti-American, you can be Christian anti-capitalist, you can be capitalist and anti-Christian. Like you can be
Um,
any of these things in all kinds of ways, right?
to be completely honest, like looking at the list at the moment with how much support political leaders like Zoran Mamdani and even Bernie Sanders have gained by having
Yeah,
more socialist values, it seems like a lot of this could be trying to kind of go for people like that. And Donald has been very outspoken about Sauron being a communist and not having American values and wanting to do Sharia law in New York, even though none of his
right.
policies indicate anything similar to that. Um,
No, they're American also.
yeah,
They're
it
American after
definitely
all.
It definitely looks like he's going to use this to target certain people and try and
Yeah.
remove their citizenship.
It feels pretty targeted, and we've seen people's green cards already being removed, the status being removed. So who's to say that
Yeah.
citizenship is next? I wouldn't be so
I mean,
surprised. I mean,
even
every time I think that something might not happen, it
it
happens,
happens.
Yeah.
Even deportations. Donald and ICE have deported Americans over the last few months. And
True.
the Supreme Court didn't really speak out much about it. So the president has been said that in some circumstances they're allowed to do it. So it
I
really
mean,
seems like no one is safe.
that's what makes a fascist, right? That it's not really based on any kind of legal proceedings, precedents, or anything. They can release directives like this, but it goes against anything and everything that America actually stands for. Um, it's not in line at all. It's not even in line with the things that they are preaching for. A lot of people expected with Trump's presidencies, plural, that he will go against all those people that said, "Oh no, they were taking away, the blue-haired people are taking away our freedom of speech because they
Yeah.
called me racist and now want me to get off the internet." Very different from actually having the government be involved um, in policing the speech. I think that's something that a lot of people still don't understand. People who have had personal conversations with that say, "Oh yeah, it's very similar to what the leftists were doing." And I think, there were some people getting fired from their jobs, but that's because they were deemed unprofessional more than anything. Sure,
Yeah.
public pressure can have an influence, but I think it's very dangerous to blur those lines because it's separate from the government, your
Yeah.
government that you pay taxes to, taking actions against you, um, because you are, expressing your own democratic opinions. Very different to try and prevent you from basically diminishing their power a little bit, which is what we should be doing. That's why it's democracy.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
as far as most of the people who got fired, like those were from, mostly private companies, I believe.
Right.
So yeah, it's just really scary to see a government enacting these policies, having no disregard for the law and the constitution in many cases. So yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
I
but
agree.
Jimmy Kimmel's back on air, so people will probably forget until this happens again in 3 months' time, maybe less.
Maybe. I mean, I guess that brings me to the fact that public pressure does work. I mean, it's gonna guide us to the next topic, but the question is always, what do I do about it?
Yeah.
But there are actually some steps, not alone, of course. We
Mhm.
mentioned this a little bit in the last episode, but it takes a more of a united approach. But it is just putting pressure on governments, companies, because at the end of the day, they still need to serve you, in a
Yeah.
sense. Otherwise, they have no customers. Otherwise, they have no citizens. That doesn't work, right? And
Yeah.
one place where we're seeing that pressure seriously unfold is in Israel. One of the most significant places where we're seeing this kind of pressure actually having an impact is at the UN. And how significant is that? Of course, is it symbolic? Sure. But, 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 can you imagine, Roshan, I'm talking to you. Can you
Yes.
imagine 2 years ago this happening? Could you even conceptualize it?
Um, yeah. I
You
don't
could?
think with I don't think with as much support from a more global stage, but I do believe that there have been walkouts on Bibi Netanyahu before.
Yeah.
Um, but to have it on such a large scale, I don't think I would have ever seen.
I didn't think it would happen now, to be honest. I mean, we're gonna show the video now, and I mean, the room is even a mess. Isn't that crazy? The room is a mess. It's very uncoordinated because everyone's just trying to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Please, order in the hall. Please, order in the hall. Please order in
There.
the hall.
Everyone in a line, one at a time.
Seems like a lot of people are supporting it as
Please
well.
order in the hall
Well,
and please be seated.
do you think they discussed it ahead of time?
I'm not sure, but actually, maybe I do think it was probably a discussion for them to speak
Yeah.
about what they plan on doing.
Do you think they have a
Sorry.
group chat without Netanyahu?
You know, if I was there, I probably would too.
Like, you know, when there's, of course, like we're talking about global leaders, but you know, when there's always that guy like in the friend group and they're just a little, they say some stuff that's a bit too much, you know, like
Yeah.
maybe they're weird, maybe they make some of the girls uncomfortable and stuff like that, and people are starting to notice it, and you're like trying to phase them out a little bit. You're like, I'm not really
Yeah,
feeling it. And then
new
eventually you get to that stage where you're like, okay, guys, new group chat.
group
Hi
chat.
guys, so we made this new group chat because, you know, we've noticed some things, but, you know,
Yeah.
just don't say anything, except this one's in your face. Now they're doing it in front of you. Now they're acting it out in front of you.
Yeah,
That's
they
how
straight up they just leave them there.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also a very big stand to take, you know, seeing that globally Israel is now losing favor. You know, I think for very long they played the victim card, and it's just not working anymore.
Yeah. It's true. It's true, and it seems that they've become very unfavorable across Europe and the US as well, which is where they were seeing the most support. Actually, I was going to ask you before I speak more about that. You know, what do you think is the climate in South Africa? Not so much from the government, but from the people. Of course, we're from like
Um,
very specific places, but
yeah.
yeah,
So the main thing that I think we can put into perspective is South Africa does have quite a large Muslim community, so they definitely stand with Palestine.
yeah,
And then a lot of older people that generally followed ANC or any liberal politics from the early 90s and 80s, they also
yeah,
stand with Palestine because this whole Hamas versus Palestine thing has been something going on for very many years. Hamas was a
yeah,
very close ally to the ANC, which is used to be the majority ruling party and still technically is. But
yeah,
if you speak to older people that maybe served in the military pre 94, because they served with Israelis, because Israelis provided training to the South
mm,
African army, a lot of them still heavily sympathize with Israelis.
yeah,
So it's a lot of the older generations, they tend to be white, unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but that's just the way it is.
but just factually, yeah.
Yeah, factually,
Yeah, it
they're
makes
white,
sense.
so you know, it doesn't necessarily add to like the older generations being more progressive. But
Yeah.
since the UN has come out with their statement that what is happening in Gaza is a genocide, I don't know if their opinions have changed. I really hope they have at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
I'm
think
not sure either.
when it comes to supporting Palestine, I think South Africa generally has a consensus that it's you know it's been
Yeah,
happening.
I think the people that are more pro-Israel are very specific. It's a bit more niche, I would say, especially at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, um, because I think these are more the kinds of people. I mean, we said white people, but I think even then it's a very specific group of white people
Mm.
in South Africa, especially those who, you know, kind of they look at Israel and they're like, we used to have that, you know,
Yeah.
that was our thing, guys. Like, you
the
know,
the
maybe they're
other
even a
thing
little jealous. But basically, yes, it's true that, you know, Israel's pretty unfavorable right now. I thought maybe we would skip to the what's happening with the flotillas at the moment. Would you like to
um
discuss that a little?
Okay, so flotillas bring aid into Gaza via the sea. One of the flotillas got attacked by drone strike. Italy sent out a
Yes.
second navy vessel to support them, but I believe has since retracted one of their navy vessels. Then Greece has also assured safe sailing in the Greek waters.
Yes. And for the first time, we're seeing real support, especially from trade unions, from organizations. People have donated money. Why? Because in Israel, they have no one has access, right? There's been a complete blockade for so many months now. People are starving. You see it on your social media. You see it on your Instagram. And here we have these seemingly random people who are just giving up their daily lives to go and try bring aid in, and they have said themselves that it's not necessarily because they have so much food for everyone. Some people have questioned that. They're like, how are they gonna feed everyone? They're not. But breaking the siege is already a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
So here we have a video of when they united. This must have been like a week ago or so, but just so you can get an idea of what that looks like.
After all these weeks, we are all together. Look at that, and that, and that, and that, and that. All boats now have merged, and we are all ready to sail to Gaza.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
Imagine how the spirits are. Imagine how scary that is. Imagine how insanely scary that is to go float out in sea. Especially knowing that at night when you're sleeping, you might hear drones in the distance. The government might change its mind. You know, if you're sailing close to their seas, there's really a lack of security, isn't there?
Yeah, and Israel has not. I think in the first flotilla, they did stop the boat from landing close to the shores of Israel. They
Yeah.
sent Greta Thunberg and the rest of the people that were on the boat back home pretty shortly afterwards.
Yes.
So, look, they're brave to do it, knowing that Israel has the capabilities to murder people. And to risk their lives to try and at least bring, even though they can't feed everyone, to bring attention to the area to try and raise awareness. Because I think in the first flotilla, many people were saying, it's so stupid that Greta Thunberg's doing this. It's, da-da-da-da-da. And, the thing that they always do is they compare the necessities of different countries and different bad things that are happening. And it really doesn't help anyone if you do that. So it's nice to see that
absolutely not.
hopefully somewhere along the lines, like things will maybe get better and maybe they prevent some of the blockades with all of this negative publicity around Israel.
Right.
So yeah.
Oh, you're completely right. There's always that thought of, oh, you're an activist. What do? You post on social media. Us right now, but the thing is, when people are out there and they're really doing it, they're really trying to make an impact, then they're being called stupid. And it's just, what else is there to do? You can only try, and you can only do things that are in your own capacity. Rashen, can you pull up the video that says truth about flotillas, because I really wanted to point out what the state of this really is.
Okay, there we go.
Flotilla mission to Gaza is that the world has so much money, but this mission feels like it's put together with duct tape and cable ties. I arrived with Tiago at this secret dock in Barcelona, where all the ships are preparing to depart, but I was shocked to learn that most of the vessels were pretty dysfunctional. Some of them had engine issues, others electrical faults, and I watched for 3 days and for 3 nights as volunteers were welding, fixing, and trying to make these ships safe to sail. But that's a tragedy. Like, this flotilla mission isn't complicated and dangerous enough.
Rashen, have you ever...
And these rusty, old, second-hand recreational yachts and fishing trawlers.
I haven't
trying to
really,
do a 3,000-kilometer journey to reach
What the
Gaza.
logistics really
That's
are of all of
why,
this.
when the flotilla was hit by a storm on the
I
first
didn't
night,
really think
7
about it
boats
at
either had
all,
to turn
to be
around,
honest.
get rescued, or didn't even make it out of Barcelona's port at all. That's also why so many boats couldn't leave Tunis. This is not a judgment call on the leadership. They're doing the best they can with the resources they have available. But this is what happens when civilians are forced to do the work of governments. This is the job of navies, a role for the
Right.
United Nations, not everyday people risking their lives to help end a genocide.
Right, so
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot that we don't even think about behind the scenes. We see it happening and we just assume, okay, they got it worked out. But I really believe that instead of having it worked out, they made it work, you know?
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest, I never really thought about the logistics that went into planning something with multiple ships. And, it's what the guy says, it's really true that this should be the job of navies, of the UN. I mean, the war's been going on for 2 years now. We've seen no resolutions passed because of the veto powers from certain nations.
Right.
So yeah, I find it absolutely admirable of the people to put their lives at risk to perform these actions.
I know that it's difficult to talk about it all the time. It's hard to see it all the time on your phone screen. I think a lot of people are, they say, oh, that's too bad and scroll past. And that's not me saying, spend all your time looking at it. But I think just recognizing how tired you are means that you can
Yeah.
recognize how tired other people that are actually, being affected by this might be. So yeah. Oh yeah, I wanted to speak about how it might come to an end similarly in a way that South Africa's apartheid regime did. What do you think?
In a pretty similar fashion, Israel kind of has been engaging in conflicts across borders. South Africa, I believe, did something very similar by getting involved in, DRC and also Namibia, I believe, towards the end of apartheid. Then they were also fighting internal conflicts against, freedom fighters.
Right.
So, yeah, and, foreign countries then impose embargoes and trade tariffs and stuff to discourage supporting South Africa. And we're seeing something very similar. Microsoft the other day pulled Azure service from
Right.
the IDF, which I think was a major move considering how much compute power the IDF does have or does need more so than have.
Right.
So yeah, it's
Had.
yeah. it's
Yeah,
it's
it's
good
true.
to see at least some reactions to what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of quiet but effective maybe in a slower sense, but Starbucks, slowly removing themselves. I believe McDonald's as well. So basically, we have
Okay.
BDS, which, if you don't know, is boycott, divestment, and sanctions. This is an organization that basically will promote and point out which companies are still involved in Israel.
Yeah.
So basically, it's about putting some kind of economic pressure on them. I mean, boycotts are nothing new, but the reason why we do them is because they work. And what Rushen is also referring to is the fact that South Africa has a lot of similarities with Israel.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people don't understand, and let me know if you agree with this, about South Africa is that we kind of get taught in class that Nelson Mandela became president, racism came to an end, and it was all peaceful and good and everything. But actually, it was because it was facing an economic collapse due to sanctions that were being placed on it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of economic pressure, and nothing speaks louder than economic pressure. And even though finding reporting on it by major media sources is so difficult in terms of Israel. But it is making a difference. GDP is down.
Yeah.
young skilled. It says 170,000 skilled young people have left the country. Real investment is down 17%. These are major stats. These are major facts showing that people are not happy. Israelis are not happy to live in Israel, for instance, and companies are starting to refrain from being invested in Israel.
Yeah, I do think like a lot of that has to do with the current leadership in Israel. Bibi Netanyahu's approval
Right.
ratings are completely below ground almost. So,
Yeah.
if they were to hold elections today, I think that Benjamin Netanyahu would actually not be prime minister anymore.
Well, that's
So,
one reason why it's prolonged everything. There were
yeah,
protests before October the 7th about Netanyahu.
I mean, and there are still people protesting today because a lot of citizens in the country
Right.
really feel that he does not care about the people that were kidnapped on October the 7th, as they continuously to just bomb and have killed their own citizens in these bombing raids before.
True.
So I think people in Israel are also getting quite fed up with their leadership. It's not a foreign feeling for, I think, many countries, but yeah, I think, the current government in Israel is losing traction, and it's well deserved that they're losing their grip.
Yeah. And with the populations of EU countries putting a lot of pressure on their governments too, blocking Israeli cruise ships from coming in, as they did
Yeah.
in Greece, and in Athens, and some islands as well. I think people underestimate the power that kind of pressure has, and that's why we started with the walkout at the UN when Netanyahu was presenting. And the reason why it didn't, a lot of people question if pressure actually works, but here we see it.
Yeah.
Again, even if it's just symbolic, it makes a difference. And South Africa, I think, to this day is even facing the consequences of those embargoes and sanctions, considering the fact that the South African passport is still pretty weak, unfortunately, for South Africans. But this comes from back then, from being praised as being kind of like a first world paradise to, well, for some, let's keep that in mind. But really recognizing what's going on there, a lot of people were highly disturbed and refused to get involved, and it led to the downfall. And I think my theory is that eventually the same thing will happen with Israel too, in a similar way.
I mean, most countries that have tried to have something like an apartheid state has never really been successful, because you just can't keep up the facade forever, and you
Right.
can't continuously fight resistance movements. That's something that doesn't really die out.
Right. At the end of the day, they're still your people, whether you accept them or not. People in your country are still your people. So, but yeah, of course, now I don't want us to end on some kind of sad note or anything. But there's a lot going on, and I wanted to say that I've had people send me suggestions as well, of what we can talk about. And guys, there's too much happening in the world. I mean, when me and Roshan discuss what we're gonna, bring up,
Yeah.
it's a whirlwind. And these things also take real research, is the other thing, because you don't want to be presenting something with half of the facts. So of course we're
Yeah.
only we're regular people, and that's how we want to discuss it, how we see it, and how it's presented to us, and hopefully give some kind of analysis that you haven't really thought of before. So yeah, but if you keep sending us suggestions, we look at everything, and we're excited to talk about more. We're excited to keep doing this. What do you think, Roshan? Are you hyped with me?
Yes, I'm very hype. Comments have been good. I think, a lot of my friends that said that if they didn't enjoy what we were saying, they wouldn't watch. I think some of them actually did end up enjoying it quite a bit and managed to sit through the whole first episode.
Wait, did enjoy it? Said I was hilarious.
Yes,
Said I
My
was
friends
the
think
funniest person they've ever.
Jasmine is the funniest person I know so far, so well done to her in last week's episode. And yeah, It's been quite fun. It's been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe one day we won't be having to worry about having too much to talk about. But right now, that's how the world is. Um, we'll see. One thing at a
Yeah.
time, one focus at a time. And I think, you know, focusing on the development of Gaza has been a huge one, and also the fact that America is. Oh, sorry
Yeah.
guys. Sorry to my American friends, but you can always come visit me.
Yeah.
So
You know, and I really do hope that things change for the better, because, you know, maybe majority of Americans did vote for Donald Trump, but uh, you know, it must suck to be in that position, living in countries that have had bad economic times and knowing how much housing costs in America. It cannot be easy to be a person
right.
there right now. So,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean,
we
it's
hope
not
for the
easy for
better.
anyone right now. It's not easy for
Yeah.
anyone right now, but that's why, you know, we gotta stick together, do our
Hope for
thing,
the
and
better, register to vote, and do your duty as a citizen to try and vote for a political party that will help you.
yeah. I mean, just because things are tiring doesn't mean you slow down on momentum. That's actually when
Yeah.
you speed it up. Get hyped, guys. Get hyped. Like me and Roshan. Okay. Well, let's call it a day. And Roshan, I'll see you next week. I'll block you for the next 6 days, and on the 7th, we can talk again.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.